Cool, so I'm Jace. I have been around Greyscape now for probably 2 to 3 years. I ride dirt bikes and I love the ocean, jet skis, fishing, all that sort of stuff, all that guy stuff. So at the moment I'm working for Greyscape with our youth, the at-risk teens, part of Oasis, and also our fuel group. Yeah, thoroughly enjoy that and love being able to invest in our up-and-coming generation. I never grew up with God in my life, any sort of religion. I was raised in a home that was probably dysfunctional to say the least. 2 sisters, our father, I was really close to Dad, so the hunting, the fishing, all the guy stuff, you know, that's what I lived for. When I got to about 8 years old, Mum and Dad separated and I basically haven't seen him since. Left me quite a little bit confused, sort of feeling like I wasn't good enough, like wasn't worthy of having him there. You know, didn't quite understand what had happened. I was left in a house with a mum and 2 sisters, so I was the only guy in the house, and there was some good to come of that. You know, it really taught me about respect for women and things like that, but at the same time, I was kind of a lost little kid without a father. When I got to about 12 years old, things weren't going great, and there was a few situations of abuse in my life. Won't really go into that here, but it wasn't really good. And somehow from that, where I was, ever since then I was asking myself this question of like, why did I do that? Instead of asking like, why did that happen to me? I felt like it was really my fault. I got this real sort of feeling that I was like one of the broken toys. You know, I was that broken toy in the corner that the kids didn't want to play with, like there was something wrong with me because that stuff had happened. I didn't have an understanding that, or the understanding that I have now around that stuff. So yeah, it really led me down that dark path. I ended up getting in trouble with school, bit of violence in my life, things like that. Yeah, and then when I got to, I think I was about 17 years old, I was working full time in a timber factory, and I chopped my thumb in half. Yeah, it was pretty gruesome, but I didn't realize the impact that was going to have on my life. So it was a pretty serious injury, and obviously in hospital for a while. And they sent me to this doctor's, and this doctor's prescribed me these painkillers. And yeah, I still remember to the day, because I'd gone back to live with Mum because I couldn't really use my hand, and I went home and I took these painkillers, and suddenly everything was all right. That whole feeling of being broken, like not being good enough, was gone. And I guess needless to say, I became a frequent flyer at that doctor after that. And yeah, I ended up developing a pretty strong addiction to prescription painkillers. That led me down a pretty dark path. I ended up getting in trouble with the law numerous times, and prescription painkillers become my life. I needed them to be me, and I needed them to be all right. Probably about 10 years before I was involved in Greyscape, maybe 5 years, somewhere in that time frame, I decided that I was going to stop and sort my life out and stop using drugs. And that pathway took about 5 years of trying everything there was to try. I literally tried all these psychotherapists and different sorts of medications the doctors were giving me to help me stop. I moved cities, I changed everything, and nothing worked. And I didn't only try it once, I tried it multiple times in like a whole heap of different ways, and I got the same result. Nothing worked, and no matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't stop. I might get a couple of months of abstinence up, and then I was straight back in the mix. Yeah, so when I arrived at Greyscape, I didn't believe there was any hope for me. I didn't believe that there was actually a way out of the life that I was stuck in, and I believed that that was the way that I was going to go. And it got to the point that I think in the last year before I came into Greyscape, there was 2 suicide attempts, thankfully not not successful. I wasn't in a place where I was like, I don't want to be alive, but I was really in a place like, I can't keep living like I've been living, you know, and it's hard to sort of separate that. But yeah, I remember saying to my mum, like, I don't want to go, but if I had a crystal ball and the next 10 years of my life were going to be like the last 10, then I don't want to do it. You know, I'm done with that. I actually tried to get into a rehab who referred me off to this place called Gracegate, and I didn't know much about it because I didn't read the paperwork at the time, but I ended up in this supported living house up on East Coast Road, and when I got there, our house host gave us this timetable, and that's when I realized that this was like this church and this Christian organization. And I'm just going to be honest, at the time it was dread. I was like, oh no. And I'm looking at this timetable, and the first thing I see is Saturday church, and in my head I had this image of like walking into church and having this dude in a gown and a sash with a Bible like yelling at me, telling me that I must repent, and it freaked me right out. But then I came to church on Saturday, and that Saturday, and from the moment that I walked in, I knew that something was different. And it sounds really weird, but that same feeling of being enough and being all right when I used to take those painkillers was what I got when I walked in these doors. And I was straight, and it intrigued me. I'd had no experience with religion or God, and it was enough to sort of make me think like, wow, what's going on here? At the time, there was this thing called Starting Point running with Lindsay and Roz, and I think Wes announced it on the stage, and he said, if you're new here and you've got questions, no questions off limits, shoot upstairs to Starting Point. And I sort of thought, well, great, because I've got some questions here, like what's going on here? So I spent some time in Starting Point, and that's where it all began. You know, for me, it was a journey from the head to the heart, and it still is today. I really don't, faith is not something that I completely understand, but it's something that lives in my heart, and that's what my journey has been like. So yeah, over the last 3 years, I've been sitting there looking for the miracle. I've been sitting there looking, like expecting thunderbolts and lightning, and like, where's Jesus going to come and appear and walk on water? And what I realized recently that led me here today was that the miracle's been happening right in front of me, and I haven't even seen it. You know, if I look at my life, like I talked about, like I couldn't stop, I couldn't change, and I tried like expensive psychotherapies. I went to rehab multiple times. I tried medicines, and all this stuff didn't work, and I was hopeless. And now the only thing I've done is put God in my life, and my life's amazing. You know, I've got everything I ever wanted, and you know, that's, for me, that's evidence. You know, it just shows me that God showed up in that space. That didn't happen by chance. It wasn't a coincidence. So yeah, for that I am very grateful. If I think about what's helped me on my faith journey, you know, getting my head in the Bible at first was really difficult. But for me, there's this saying or verse in the Bible, and I think it's in the book of Matthew, and it simplified everything for me, and it made everything make sense, and it was so simple, and it just said, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and that will be given to you. And that's what I use on this to the day. You know, I ask myself often, what would Jesus do? And trust me, I never get it as right as he did, but I think that's the way my faith works, is I live my life trying to be as close as I can. And there's a whole lot in the Bible that can be confusing at times, but for me that simplifies everything. And that's just a principle that I live by in my daily life. Who do I want to thank? Man, there's hundreds of people that I'd like to thank, but I don't think I'm going to name them. I think I'm just going to thank everybody that's in our community, whether you're like in supported living for the first time, whether you're a young mum that's just got here, whether you've been here 10 years as a staff member. Like, I appreciate all of you, because this community is exactly that. It's a community, and it's a team thing. It's not a one-person thing. So there's definitely been people that have done amazing things for me that I've learned a lot from, but I like to think of this as we're all just sort of fabric in a big tapestry, and it comes together really nicely. So yeah, thank you to anyone that's here today, anyone that's been part of Gracegate, because yeah, you mean everything to me. I want to get baptised because God saved my life, and that's as simple as that. For a long time, I've known that God saved my life, but I've been embarrassed to share that, and I don't know why. And it's only after a lot of prayer and a lot of talking to people like, God's done this amazing thing for me, and He's done it for so many other people, and it's sort of like, who am I to hide that light? You know, when He stepped into my life and basically pulled me from the trenches and saved my life, but I'm over here going, I don't want to tell anybody about it, you know? So like, I'm here today to say that God saved my life, and He can do the same for you, and I want everyone to know about that. I don't want anyone to miss out. So.